will call the Sunnyvale 4B Economic Development Board meeting for Tuesday, June 8th to order at 5:48 p.m. due to technical difficulties. First thing we'll do is all members are present other than member Shatter. We'll hold a public forum. 4B Board of Directors invite citizens to address the board on any matter, including items on the agenda, except public hearings that are included in the agenda. Comments related to the public hearings will be heard when the specific hearing starts. Citizens' comments are limited to 3 minutes unless otherwise required by law. The board is not permitted to take action or discuss any item not listed on the agenda. The board may choose to place the item on a future agenda. Nobody's present. Is anybody online for the public forum? Nobody's online, so we will close the public forum. Move on to public hearing. First public hearing item is for agenda item report AIR 21-096. Hold a public hearing to discuss, consider, and act upon resolution 21-22 declaring the concept planning for Samuell Farm North and New Hope, Jobson, and Barnes Bridge Parks is a project in compliance with section 505.159 of the Texas Local Government Code. Nobody's here to comment. Anybody online? Okay, we will close that hearing. Open the next hearing for agenda item report AIR 21-105. Hold a public hearing, discuss and consider and act upon resolution 21-25 declaring Project Panther a project in compliance with section 505.152 of the Texas Local Government Code. Once again, nobody's in the audience. Comment, anybody online? All right, so we'll close the public hearing. Move forward to discussion and action items. First item is to discuss and consider and act upon resolution 21-24, approving a professional services agreement with MHS Planning and Design LLC in an amount not to exceed $40,650 for conceptual planning and design services related to recreational and community facility at Samuell Farm North and New Hope, Jobson Park, and Barnes Bridge Parks. If you recall, this item was tabled last month.
Getting set up over here. Can you hear me? Okay, so over the last few years, Samuell Farm North, New Hope, Jobson, and Barnes Bridge Parks have been discussed as possible sites for further recreational opportunities. All four properties were identified in the Parks Master Plan, and the towns worked with MHS for the master plan. They've demonstrated an ability to be able to complete that project. So the Parks Master Plan's given high-level guidance and recommends that those parks be developed in the future. The concept plans will go into more detail, specific concepts, amenities, cost estimates as the next step towards implementing the Parks Master Plan. And so I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So Burton and Susan and I have discussed this quite a bit, and my initial thought was, until we decide what we want to do, was to kind of hold off on this. But in further consideration, I'm actually in favor of moving forward with this resolution for all the parks. And the reason being, both Samuell Farm and New Hope, we don't have a plan for them. We're trying to work with the city of Dallas to gain more control so we can move forward. Additionally, as they pointed out in the Parks Master Plan, if you have a plan, you're a lot more likely to get grant funding. So by moving forward on planning for each of these parks doesn't mean it's set in stone and that's exactly what's going to happen there, but at least gives us the conceptual outline for each one of what MHS believes based on town feedback and citizen feedback is the best use for each one of these. And even if we don't move forward with developing all or even one of them in the near future, at least we come up with hard numbers as well based on current costs for what those plans would cost, which is also going to be beneficial to the board and citizens when you're looking at future projects and bonds and those types of things. So that's the primary reason I'm in support of it, is to get some hard numbers instead of just holding off until we think we have the money when we don't really know what it's going to cost to move forward with them anyways.
I agree that we should move forward. We have a history of doing research and getting opinions and then just kind of stalling out after that. And then we start over again a couple of years later. It would be good to continue the momentum with the information we now have and see what that could look like and what it could cost. And that'll help us make plans for the future.
I agree and I support the project. I just have a couple of technical questions. One, just back for the, you don't have to answer the questions tonight, but I would just be curious to know from MHS why they are combining, for the quote, the design work for New Hope and Samuell Farm North and all together, rather than separating that out. And then the second part of my question / request is when they do the estimate of anticipated cost, and then they have the separate line item of phasing options, I would like to make sure that those anticipated costs are somehow correlated to those phasing options, so we have a better understanding of that. I don't know if you have answers to either of those, or if those are just takeaways you can ask, just out of my curiosity.
As far as the combined, I had them combine the properties. So it should be Samuell. I mean, it'll be two separate items because they are two separate parks. I just had them, the way that the proposal was generated was by property. And then I can get some clarification for you on the estimated cost or the anticipated costs on the phasing options.
And just to chime in on that, my understanding was as well that they gave us a price initially so you could do Jobson standalone, New Hope Samuell Farms standalone, Orange Bridge standalone, or if you did them all together, it was discounted. Correct? I mean, it's slightly cheaper to do it all together than if we did it one this year, one next year, one the following.
That's correct. And the item that's here tonight is the one that's the discounted price.
Right. So that's why they were combined originally, if we did them in.
Okay, I guess I was just thinking, was there some plan to make those two parks the same kind of design?
Right. Yeah, I know.
Right.
So,
But if it's gonna all get lumped together and we're gonna get discount to do all four designs at the same time, then that's fine.
correct. Any other questions or?
President Wyse, I've got a request here. If we could, before you all vote on this item, can we go back and take a vote for declaring this a project as well as declaring the Project Panther a project? Actually take a vote on both of them.
Yes.
This will have to be
So we'll have to take one step back to item number, or the public hearing section of the agenda, item number 1. We held the public hearing, but we did not vote to declare it a project, so.
So I make a motion, that we approve resolution number 21-22, go through the whole thing. Declaring the concept planning for Samuell Farm North and New Hope, Jobson, and Barnes Bridge Parks a project pursuant to sections 505.159, 505.152, and 501.152 of the Texas Local Government Code.
Motion made by member Bradford, seconded by member Anthony. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Then I think you combine those two, so we need a separate one. We get a motion for Project Panther, resolution 21-25.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve resolution number 21-25, declaring Project Panther project pursuant to section 505.152 of the Texas Local Government Code.
Motion made by member Bradford, seconded by member Nair. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Now we can move on once again to approving, if everybody agrees, resolution 21-24. Moving.
I've got one additional comment.
Okay.
So the sum of all of these amounts, just by the way, on this bid is the $40,650. So what do we think the discounted price is going to be? Or do we know?
There was a separate,
That is the discounted price.
originally there was a separate breakdown of all of them
Oh, okay.
with, so it would have been 4 separate.
Okay.
We can get that number, but if I recall correctly, it was $5,000 or $6,000 less.
I'm just curious, are there any revisions allowed? Are we going to be working with them during this process, or are they just going to say, here's what we think, and if we don't like it, we have to pay again to have them tweak it?
On the concept plans. So this would be, each one of these would almost be like mini parks master plans where there would be public input again. It'll be very similar in terms of certainly more detailed, but everyone will have an opportunity to see what they put together and tweak it, things like that. So,
So we're going to start from the beginning, essentially what we did, but one more detailed level.
correct. Yep.
All right. Well, I'll make a motion that that we approve the professional services agreement with MHS Planning and Design LLC an amount not to exceed $40,650.
Motion made by member Bradford,
Do I have to say the resolution as well? And that would include resolution 21-24.
seconded by member Cash. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Next item is discuss, consider, and approve the minutes from May 18, 2021. So other than the fact that we were all over the place in terms of the agenda, is it okay that the minutes don't the minutes followed the way the agenda was printed, not the way we held the meeting. So is that okay?
Right. So when I did go in and do the minutes, anything that was time sensitive, anything, for example, when member Anthony left and then member Bradford, all of that's noted in the minutes. It's just, it is in the order that it was in.
That's all you had the times that things ended, but as long as that's okay, it all looked correct to me. Any other comments on the minutes? I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Motion made by member Wyse, seconded by member Cash. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Move on to discuss, consider, and approve the May 2021 financial reporting and related items.
Okay, so for the month ending May 31st, we had revenues of $91,789.63 and expenses of $26,279.44. We had our standard payments for payroll, maintenance items. Looks like some additional an additional payment to MHS for the Parks Master Plan. Some planning costs for the Glacier Barn, and then some equipment at Jobson Park. So our ending fund balance as of May 31st was $3,230,439. And of course, the sales tax revenue comparison is going to be quite skewed when you look back at March of last year, since that's when the pandemic began. We're obviously doing much better this year. People come out of their homes for the winter, I guess. I don't know.
I think it has more to do with those that pay their sales tax receipts on a quarterly basis than on a monthly basis. So you usually see it higher in March and get in June.
Okay. And doesn't look like we've had any activity on incentive payments this month, so the summary there is the same. I didn't have any questions for staff on the monthly financials.
Any questions on the May financials?
They are still, I believe they're still there. We haven't had any applications or anything like that, so. Susan, do you have any idea what that would look like as far as keeping it going or doing away with it? Or
so we are still in the process of receiving additional grants from the federal government for COVID. So, and part of those grants specifically talk to giving business incentives, helping businesses in the community. So I think originally Burton and I had talked about, as you mentioned, kind of transitioning out of that and possibly closing the project. But given that, there's this other programs, it seems kind of contradictory to do away with a program that is there to address the same issue. So, my advice would be probably to leave it open for now and, maybe let at the end of the fiscal year, relook at that and possibly close the project so that going into next year, you don't have that program open. I mean, those are just a thought, but we didn't feel strongly about it one way or the other. We just haven't received any more applications. And, we're trying to ask businesses, like, do you need assistance? So if anybody's listening and does, those funds are still available.
I like the idea of keeping it open for the rest of this fiscal year.
Yeah.
Shut that down.
Makes sense. Any other questions or comments? Motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the May 2021 financial statements as presented.
Motion made by member Anthony. Seconded by member Nair. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Move on to the next item. Discuss, consider, and approve the proposed 2021-2022 fiscal year budget.
Do you want to do it, or do you want me to run through it?
It's up to you, whichever you're comfortable with, I can do it, or you can do it.
I don't care either way. I just always, I don't ever like talking through somebody else's work, but do that for the
Okay, I'll do it then.
month of May, but that's up to you.
This is gonna be a look at, fiscal year 2021-2022's budget. Staff had an opportunity to meet with President Wyse and, Treasurer Bradford to go over some staff recommendations for the budget for next fiscal year. I'm gonna go through them, the revenues first and then the expenses. This is on our calendar to present to Town Council on July the 12th. So by your next meeting, we would need for 4B to go ahead and approve the budget. But after we go through here, if you have any recommendations or any changes you would like for us to make, we can make those prior to presenting it to the Town Council. So looking first at revenues, 4B has only two sources. One is your sales tax receipt and the other is interest earned. Your sales tax receipts are currently running at just a little bit above budget right now. So we're leaving those flat for next year. So those will remain at $850,000. Interest, we're also leaving flat at $7,300 for next year. And that is a total of $857,300 in revenues. Going on to your expenses, those first 4 or 5 line items are related to labor and benefits. They include only wages and salaries, taxes, a car allowance for one person, the EDC director. We are still working with some re-rate information from TML on the employee insurance. So that number could change between now and the time that we present to council, but we would go over that again when we present this again for your approval in July. The next line item would be your landscape maintenance. This is the monthly fee that you pay for the landscape maintenance at the Four Corners. We're currently paying about $9,700 a year for landscape maintenance. We're budgeting $13,000, as we usually include a little bit extra for irrigation repairs that occur there at those Four Corners. Promotional services have to be at a dollar amount that is less than or equal to 10% of your sales tax receipts. So we're leaving that at the $85,000, which would be 10% of your $850,000 in revenues. Park maintenance is the maintenance at the Town Center, Vineyard, Jobson, Samuell Farm North, Samuell Farm New Hope, and the Rails to Trails area. We have that at $80,000, which is the same as what is currently budgeted for this year. General office supplies, that is also flat at $3,000. Your dues, subscriptions, memberships is flat at $11,500. Planning, and we have listed for next year the downtown vision study and some additional park sub-plans. We have that at $50,000. So that's an increase from current year of $25,000. Legal services, we have budgeted at flat $15,000 for this year. Outside training expenses, those would be for the EDC director. Those are budgeted for next year at $3,000. Other miscellaneous expense, that is for, like, if we, Burton has a business lunch, if we purchase food for meetings, we are leaving that at $2,000. The transfers out indirect costs is 4B support of the park budget, and that has been at 33% of the park department budget. So that right now is at $224,768. Like I said earlier, we are still waiting on some re-rate information. So if the employee insurance dollar amount changes, then this number would also change. We're still working with TML to get that information. Incentives, we are leaving at flat at what you have currently budgeted this year, $400,000 for next year. Town beautification, which should normally is for holiday decorations. We talked about the lights at the roundabout and monument signs. We have that at $50,000, which is a $25,000 increase over current year. Parks and trails. This is for if we were to replace equipment or like put in some playground equipment, or if we were to replace or upgrade some of the exercise equipment that's at the parks. We have that at $50,000, and that's an increase of $25,000 from current year. We don't have any money budgeted next year for Vineyard Park improvements as that project is completed. We don't have any money budgeted for the Glacier Park improvements. However, if that project is not, if the funds that we have budgeted for this year, which is the $500,000, is not fully expensed by the end of the year, and those funds will roll forward into next year. The regional rails to trails, we have $15,000 budgeted for that, and that is like the Glacier Park improvements. Those funds will also roll forward into next year if they're not fully expensed in this current year. That takes your total expenses to $1,133,043. And based solely on what you budgeted for current year, using where we anticipated your fund balance to be at the end of this fiscal year, which was would give you a beginning fund balance for next year of $1,784,743. With these budgeted numbers for next year, you would have an ending fund balance at the end of September 2022 of $1,509,000. But again, that is predicated on you meeting 100% of your revenues and 100% of your expenses for the current fiscal year. Happy to answer any questions if I can. Oh, I forgot about the supplementals. We did have one supplemental for 4B, and that is an item to bring on a part-time administrative assistant at a cost of $17,325. That the charges for this administrative assistant are not reflected in the budget numbers I just went over. So if 4B were to approve that, then there would be a change in these numbers as well.
Phyllis, on the supplemental, this one doesn't show the increase in salary. Is that already baked into the budget?
It is not baked into it yet.
So that we've got a supplemental on the master supplemental list for 4B that would be the same percentage that the rest of the organization would be eligible for based upon their performance. So it's up to 3%.
The remaining pages behind that green supplemental sheet is just detail information from our encode.
Thank you, Phyllis. Yeah, this is consistent with what we discussed and, I felt pretty comfortable with the numbers, so. If anybody else has any questions, let's talk it through with me. I think the normal process is just to assume the current rate, just to be conservative.
And we, as you know, we were running flat until last month. So it wasn't until last month that we popped back up over flat. So you're right, we've got new businesses opening, but a couple of those are under incentive agreements that will be paying back that sales tax. So I mean, we'll monitor it, and if we're really seeing a significant increase, we can go mid-year and adjust the revenue predictions. But right now, I just think prudent to go flat with all the things going on in the economy. So.
I think we did that one year where there was like 6 months in a row where it was like higher than we expected, and so we just included an increase in the mid-year budget, I think.
And I think right now you're running right, just a little bit ahead of budget, but it's important to remember that is 6 months, but it's only, it includes 2 months of accrual. So.
I mean, what about it?
I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
totally missed.
They kind of blend together.
The only comment I have is
We
like
don't know about it.
on that parks and trails equipment replacement, that line item. The actual, for this year is 200K plus, and we only allocated 50,000. So we are not anticipating any.
Yeah, so actually the 203,000 was actual for last fiscal year.
Yeah.
The actual for the current year is actually 0. It's one column before that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It,
Yeah.
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 200,000.
Oh, that is after that. Okay.
I don't think we typically spend a lot of money there, but one of the things that we talked about is that some of the equipment some of the exercise equipment is probably due for a refresh. I remember we replaced a couple of machines back when I first started on the board, but that was like 8 years ago. So anyway, and I think surveillance equipment and some other things too would be included in that. So I think that's why we were just building that in. No, they're flip those two, and that might give you more side by side comparison.
And also, when we get to parks, we can talk about it, but there's some erosion issues over here that can be put under landscape maintenance, or they can put under park maintenance, or they can fall under this, depending on how you look at it, and how it's repaired. So.
And then also for the parks and trails, or I don't know if it would be its own separate line item. Just wondering, if MHS does this plan, if there's anything that we see that we want to move forward on that. I guess timing wise, it would probably be something we could address at mid-year also by the time that gets finished.
Yeah, so I think a couple of these, I have some notes from our internal meeting that, it would probably, by the time that plan gets done and we have any interest in pursuing any of those, it would be about the time we do a mid-year budget amendment, and that's when we would probably tweak things to include costs for that.
Okay.
It's just too hard to know right now.
Any other comments or questions?
Do we, so you said we have to approve, so I know it's like one agenda item to approve the proposed budget, and that includes the supplemental item as well for the assistant.
Can,
Okay,
everyone.
should we discuss that real quick? Does anybody have a problem with the administrative assistant.
Tried it once before, so.
Yeah, we did. And I think Burton's run into some of the same things that Tracy ran into. When you have the minutes and administrative things and you can be here and other things. I don't want to speak for him.
Right. He didn't.
He's welcome to chime in if he wants to.
He didn't ask for it, but we know it would help. So.
He didn't. It was my suggestion.
Right.
I just think it is a nice continuity that we have somebody who is here who can assist with all of the administrative things, filing, minutes. I just think Burton's time is better spent out meeting with existing businesses for retention purposes than sitting for 2 hours transcribing minutes. I just don't think that's the highest and best use of his time. Additionally, Phyllis does a lot of support on the financial side. She will continue that oversight, but I would like to have somebody, with 4B actually preparing all those materials to free up some of her time. We're pretty short-staffed in finance and trying to address that this budget year. So those were kind of my thoughts. And Burton did not ask for this. I'm asking for it on his behalf. So.
Okay, well, I can go ahead and make a motion to approve the 4B proposed budget, including for the 2021-22 fiscal year, including the supplemental item for part-time administrative assistant. Okay, even though that's not in here. Okay. As well as supplemental for merit increase for EDC.
Motion made by Member Bradford,
Second that motion.
seconded by Member Chase. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Okay. We'll move on to discuss updates on the following projects. First off, Glacier.
Okay, so some of these updates are from last month, and so the draft costs from the construction manager at risk were received. There was dramatic increases in the cost of building materials, so the estimates were pretty high, and staff's working with the architect and construction manager to reduce those costs now. And Susan, if you have anything to add to that.
Just that they are above budget. So we actually have a meeting tomorrow to go through it really thoroughly and decide. Council already discussed the fire station at their budget retreat on Saturday, so I have direction on where to go with that, but not quite ready. I'm trying to still understanding what the prices are for the barns. So as soon as I get a firm handle on that, I'll probably be coming back to you and talking about options.
So again, this is from the prices are from the construction manager at risk based on their expertise, not real quotes or real bids. It's just if
That's
he was
correct.
building it, this is what it would cost.
Right. And right now, I mean, I'm sure y'all are fully aware of this, but concrete prices have skyrocketed, steel, wood. So, I mean, we're seeing probably a 1/5 increase. What is that? 20% increase in costs right now. So we're trying to mitigate that with size and value engineering, but also knowing we're going to have to absorb some of those increases. And we won't have a guaranteed maximum price until we get at the 90% plan mark, which will probably be around November. But we need to be prepared as we go through this design process. So Burton and I'll probably be coming back to you next month with, hey, here's where we're at. Do we want to move forward or not? And, we know the challenges with not moving forward, that we must address the situation. It's just a matter of how we're going to go about doing it. The other thing that is a little unknown right now, too, is we had previously talked about extending the sidewalks on either side, and because of the price increases, it's unlikely that the fire station will be able to absorb those costs. So just want to throw that out in the universe as well, that
Right.
we're going to be looking for funding if we want to expand those trails. And I think, I mean, it would be such a shame to not do that when we're there, but it's going to be everything we can do to get the fire station done with the existing funding. So just want to throw that out there.
Okay. So Jobson.
Due to the weather, we've still been attempting to repair the turf at the batting cage. I see Mr. Wyse laughing at me. We've got it laid back out flat so that the kids can at least use it. And hopefully the weather holds out. We've got clear skies and warm temperatures forecast for the next 9 days. So we'll be able to let that turf dry out and then re-glue it down to the concrete slab. We're looking at the construction of an outfield fence for that ball field facility, and with the increase of fence materials, concrete, and then obviously they raise the rate due to the fuel to get the supplies there, we're gonna have to go back and start over. We were looking at about $45,000 to do the fence correctly. Concrete mowing pad, 40 gauge screen. Now we're gonna have to go back and start over simply because the rates have gone up so much. So we're gonna do that again, and I'll have those numbers probably in a week or so. We've got to install some new base anchors and home plate at Jobson simply because they're just worn out. The base anchors have moved. When they start shifting, they get dangerous. Bases move when you hit them. So we're going to pull those out of the ground now that baseball's almost over for most of the summer league teams, and we'll get that replaced. We have an aerating device that we're going to hook up to one of our tractors, and everybody's going to learn how to use it next week. That way we'll be able to start aerating the fields, which will keep the fields from getting compacted and give the grass a better opportunity to survive some of the traffic that we have on it. Any question about Jobson?
Some of those replacement bases and such are already included in
Yeah, we've got them purchased. We're just waiting for the opportunity to install. And the only purchases that we need to repair the artificial turf is we haven't purchased the glue. We're just waiting until we actually do it to go get that.
And I was just curious, is there any other way to adhere the turf to the concrete, or is it just?
No, ma'am. Yeah. The reason it came up like it did is although the company that we dealt with is a reputable company and the turf they sold us is great, the installers that they sent didn't do a very good job, and they came and they did it when our park supervisor and I were not in attendance. So when the turf came up, we found out that all they did was glue around the edge of the concrete. So when the wind started blowing through there, the turf started flapping, pulled it right up off, and they didn't weight it down like you're supposed to. And you've got to stay off of it a few days. Of course, we weren't there, so the kids jumped right on it. They drove up and saw it. And, I don't blame them for that, but they should have done a better job gluing it down. So rather than call them back and deal with that, we're just going to do it ourselves.
Next is Vineyard.
Well, we've painted all the soccer boundaries at Vineyard several times so that the kids will know exactly the dimensions of their fields. It's a little bit easier to practice. It's a little bit easier to rotate what we would call stations for their training so that they don't wear out one section of grass. We can move goals from one field to another and have them stay off field 3. Today, you're only going to use field 2. And they've been real great to work with us on that. So if you've Of course, and with the rain, if you've been out there, the grass looks great. They haven't been on it that much in the last 14 days because of all the rain, but that helped a lot. And we're going to continue to do that for them. And once we get an outfield fence at Jobson, we're going to do the same thing over there. We're going to keep the foul lines painted just for, daily use. Aeration of the soccer fields, we're going to do at the same time that we do Jobson. We're going to try something that I've done in the other cities that I've worked for, but we haven't done it here. We're going to remove those soccer goals as soon as the regular soccer season's over. We're going to take the nets down, store them in the soccer association's storage shed that's right there in front of the fire station. We're going to move those goals over behind that shed, and we're going to chain them up so that the adults that come out there and want to play soccer, while we need downtime on the turf, can't just slide a soccer goal to wherever they want and start playing. When we aerate, we've got to mark all of the irrigation heads with irrigation flags, and we might have to do that on a Wednesday afternoon and not be able to actually aerate till Thursday morning. And with no soccer goals on there, it's less likely that they'll get out there and play. And what we found in the past is that the majority of the use during off season are from individuals that don't live in Sunnyvale, and they're not youth, they're adult. So, and what I call adult is, 16, 17, 18 and older. So we're going to move those goals, chain them up, and then we'll replace them and put the nets back on them when soccer season rolls back around, when practice begins. We've got somebody set a picnic table on fire out there, at the divider between the library, fire station, and the soccer field itself. One of those polyurethane coated picnic tables, they set the top of it on fire. So we're going to get that out of there and replace it. And I tried to get them just to sell me a top, but they wouldn't do it. I have to buy.
Might have tried to grill on it or something.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like. So we'll get that replaced.
It's bullet number 1, installing the 3 security cameras.
Yeah, exactly.
People set portable grills in some strange places,
Oh, I looked right
including
past,
in their houses.
I looked right past the first bullet. We're actually meeting Thursday, the IT director now, with a company that the cameras that the IT director suggested are the ones that we want to purchase, but we finally found a company that can install them, will warranty their work, and it's not the $5,500 that the company that we're buying the cameras from wanted. So we're going to go out there and show them exactly what we're doing and what we want Thursday morning. And so hopefully we'll be able to move forward on that and get that installed quickly.
Okay. So Samuell Farms, any update there?
So we just recently met with the Parks and Rec representatives. We discussed property usage, revising the lease agreement. I put this on there as the Parks Master Plan adoption. I put this on there just as a note, but it's going to be on the next council meeting, and provided after tonight you all recommending to move forward on the concept plans, we'll start working with MHS pending town council approval. The meeting with City of Dallas, we know it's going to be a process. It was good to be able to visit with them again. They've got some things that they're working on as well, but we're just going to continue working towards getting the plans for Samuell Farm like we discussed tonight too. And hopefully when we can present that, their powers that be, and their parks board, their management, everybody's on board and receptive with it. So, Susan, you have anything else you want to add?
No, that's a good summary. I mean, we did just put it right out there. We weren't shy about it, asking for them to consider changing that element of the lease. And basically they said they have a new board and they're going to, talk about it internally, and also that it was a standard provision in all of their contracts. So they didn't seem real excited about changing it, but we did express our concern of, how it limits what we might want to do. But I do think we just need to, I'm really glad you guys supported moving forward with that master plan, because I think it's important for us to show that true commitment to moving forward with doing upgrades. So we committed to keeping them abreast of our planning process, and they're also working on master planning for the other side of the freeway. So I think we'll just, we talked a lot about not duplicating efforts, not duplicating services, but complementing what each are doing. So I think, it was a great conversation, but I, of course, wished we would have been able to get that changed, but I think we'll continue to address it as our planning moves forward. And hopefully when we come to a point where we're ready to really spend some money, they might be in a position to figure out a win-win, concerning that issue.
Maybe we can offer to repaint their sign that's in front of the, is a good faith measure. Most people think that's part of Sunnyvale, and that sign's falling apart.
This may not be the venue for this, but I've been an advocate of expanding the trail system there at Samuell Farm North. It's like somebody else pointed out to me, what if we did that anyway as a town and our deal fell apart with the city of Dallas? The trail's still going to be there. Why would they ever they're not going to take it up. They're not going to tear it down. It's going to be there. People are going to use it anyway. So it's not like we frittered away money on something that will wear out. I'll be at the other meetings.
Yep. Okay. Next is rails to trails. We're, again, I know I say this every month, but we're really close. So
We're hoping for next week.
yeah.
Like that last 2% on like trying to install updates and Windows. It's really fast.
So we did receive positive news back saying it's basically there. You may know more than me, but yeah, it was the same email from last week.
That, Encore's approved, Luminance approved. Now they're working with the title company I have not gotten that final statement you get right before closing. I did on another property we're purchasing tomorrow, but so that's kind of what I'm waiting for, is that closing statement, so that we know what monies to prepare, and but I haven't gotten that yet. So, but he seemed to indicate that it would be this week or next week. So keep your fingers crossed.
And we're not delaying it after that. We're planning on moving forward once it's all good to go. So, town beautification.
Okay, the park maintenance staff has been replacing water damaged landscape materials at Town Hall and Town Center Park. We've got some that we think might come back if we give it until next spring. They're blossoming some, blooming some. Burton has coined the term Frankenstein bush, because half of it looks normal and the other half looks like we just kind of added it on there. So we're going to give those a while, but we've already started adding some stuff just to kind of maybe direct your attention off the stuff that's winter damaged onto the stuff that's blooming this spring. Sorry. The light pole foundation are being poured along Collins Road. We've been working with the garden club on the landscape at the town entrance sign on Town East. The irrigation's now fixed. We had to remove some limbs and such, but that flower bed is now up to speed. Staff has been working with on getting quotes for various seasonal banners and holiday decorations. Do we have some of those pictures on there? We had a very large banner program at the last town I worked with, and these are some of the banners that we used on our ornamental lighting. We just switched them. We would rotate them depending on the season. Now these are just examples. Everything's custom, so we can make it say whatever we want it to say. Like in Texas, we really don't have an autumn, so we could change we could change that, and we can make it say Happy Holidays or Merry Christmas or whatever we wanted. And then these are just some ideas for the traffic circle to put in the middle as Christmas decorations. Now those come in several different sizes so that you've got a line of sight, while you're driving in that circle. And of course, what we're talking about is just the main object, adding Christmas lights around the edge, back off the curb some to bring attention. And then the banners on the poles that would be around that would bring more to it than just, that stack of Christmas ornaments that you saw. But I've used those in other cities well, and everybody loved them. And they look great, once you add a little bit to them. We thought about, we're going to get one of these and put it on our bay door here. Yeah, and it sticks on, and you roll it, peel it off, and roll it up and use it for next year.
Have one that looks like a fire truck.
Yes, sir. And all that kind of stuff, we can make it completely custom.
Right.
So.
Neat.
And we also, before I hand the mic back, looked into, I've lost my train of thought, a snow machine. The Christmas event.
That'd be fun.
Seeing the example flags.
What's that?
Seeing the example flags. We talked about that for a very long time. I think how long it has to do something.
I guess sometime soon they'll start on the other side of the road if the weather stops raining.
Yeah, it's 100% weather related. Every time it starts to dry out, and we get close to them being able to take the next step, it rains. So we need several weeks for it to dry out so they can pour that last bit.
It's starting to be that time of year, so hopefully so.
One would hope.
Next is development updates.
I had a quick question real quick. I know we had, I don't know how long ago, we saw the renderings of proposed monuments. Has there been any other updates to that or new renderings?
That kind of falls under development updates in some ways, because I thought we were talking about the town and the committee or whatever all starting over from scratch, I believe.
Yeah, I think at one of the last time we discussed the monuments, we were talking about getting together with town council, having a joint meeting, trying to move away from what was it called? The prairie theme.
Something.
No, we probably need to get I would say, I guess, have an initial meeting with them. Is that what you were thinking too, Susan?
Yeah, actually, they're asking for a joint meeting as well. In the town's strategic plan, one of the items is updating your strategic plan and also taking a fresh look at our incentive guidelines, just making sure everything is still, we've done a lot in the last 2 years since that document was adopted. And so, that was one of their recommendations, is for us to talk to you all about updating that. So we have 2 or 3 items that would warrant a joint meeting. We just need to find a date, and we've been kind of focused on budget for the last several weeks and adopting the strategic plan. And like I said, we had the budget retreat last weekend. So now we're kind of getting past that. So we'll work with you all to identify dates. But I think those are kind of the 3 main things that we feel we need to do as a joint group. That sounds good to you all.
Now development updates.
Okay. So construction's still going on at the Tulos Office Park, the 357 construction, all of those, Planters Road Distribution Center, Chiralis Plaza, Chick-fil-A. Obviously, all of those with the rain that we've had have slowed things substantially. Like JD said, it looks like it's fixing to go from spring to summer by the end of the week. So
Where's the Tillis Office Park?
It's on the corner of Pascal and the frontage road. Um,
I didn't know that was- That's where the wedding venue's going to?
that's where I believe that's where it's proposed. And recently, staff met with several developers to explore sit-down restaurants and a hotel in Sunnyvale. And as you all know, Whataburger's now open. So. Charles, did you have anything else?
The only thing I'd add is Starbucks has also broken ground very recently, and then also Burger King, I believe, should be soon behind them. All the permits have been issued. We're just waiting for them to get started.
So Starbucks is kind of on the top of the hill, and Burger King, which
So Starbucks, if you're standing on 80 looking at Panda,
Mhm.
we're misremembering this now.
they're to the west up,
Um,
west and south up the hill.
Starbucks is it's Panda, Burger King, then Starbucks.
Okay.
How many pads do they have left?
Just one. Yeah, so there's been a site plan that has been approved for the site to the east of Panda for a medical office building.
And then the one that's vacant and left is the one that Burton's referring to, that the three of us met with the developer to talk about our desire for a sit-down restaurant, and had very encouraging them to pursue that just based upon feedback we're getting from the neighborhood surrounding. So we did have that meeting last week, but that's that last vacant parcel. I think it's 1.4 acres. So if anyone wants to open a franchise sit-down restaurant, it'd be very encouraging of that. So.
And Chick-fil-A still on schedule now. Cool. Any other questions on development? Any items people would like to add, members would like to add for future agenda or events?
Is there consideration for another trucking related facility to the west of the one that's being built now on 80 Service Road? Can that be a future agenda item? Okay. I mean, the last one kind of, you never heard about it.
It went through several P&Z meetings, public notice, council meetings.
Just not us.
Well, and I do think that based upon that feedback is why we now have that agenda item. So, but things do have to get to that public phase, and then we're making sure that we put them on your agenda for you.
One thing, I guess, I don't know if it's under future agenda items or development, but on the Sunnyvale Center sign, it's missing some letters. Is there anything we can do about helping that? I can't remember what it says right now, but it doesn't say Sunnyvale. Okay.
President Wyse, one thing I was going to ask you and the board, on the monthly updates for these projects, if you all are okay with it, I'd like to move these to a more of a staff report where I could have all this stuff in a report, and then if there's any questions, we can certainly address all of those, or we can keep doing it like this. However you all would like to.
He brought it up, and I personally thought it'd be fine if he sent it out as part of the agenda as a report, and then when we get to it, it's kind of, like the omnibus thing. It's like, barring any exceptions, you okay with it, or do you want to discuss it? I'm personally fine with that.
Yeah, works for me. I do have one other item. I don't know if it's a future agenda item or if it fits into one of these categories, but as we talk about park planning, especially as it relates to, so especially as that relates to Barnes Bridge, and as we talk about economic development as it relates to the Highway 80 area, I'm wondering if there would be any value for us to just kind of keep in the loop on TxDOT progress on the George Bush Tollway and Highway 80 expansion and how that may impact some of those projects. I realize things get stalled and then things happen, and some of it's just kind of out in the news universe that we hear about as citizens. But
It'd be nice if we can get a Sunnyvale member on the planning board for 190. When I was up in Richardson, we had a representative in Richardson, but since it's
And that
future planned, it would be neat if staff or a
and that may be
developer or
something
somebody
that
in Sunnyvale.
the MHS group connects directly with them and includes as part of their concept plan. So that's fine. I just thought I would mention it. We just haven't heard anything about timing of any of that.
Well, I can tell you, as it relates to development, that we have not heard anything on 190 formally. On 80, the town entered into an advanced funding agreement with TxDOT for right-of-way acquisition. $600,000, I think, was the amount. We're paying it over 5 years. And then we also got what I call phase one, which is just phase one in Sunnyvale, for utility relocations, and we did not have any in the very small phase one, but it was a very small piece. So that was great news. And then we are waiting for the preliminary design for the next phase, which is the majority that goes through Sunnyvale. And at that point, once we see that, it'll determine how much of our utilities we're going to need to relocate. So we have a placeholder on our CIP for that, but we don't have any idea of the amount, or because until you see the plan, you don't know what utilities are in conflict. So once that happens, like I said, we have a placeholder so that we know we're going to probably have some significant cost. We just don't know what that is. And I want to say that we are not expecting that preliminary plan till next year. Yeah, next year. So we have a little bit of a breathing space on that project. So that's the update that I can provide right now. You're welcome.
One other potential future agenda item, and former member Javier Torres brought it up, but was the land below the dam to the east. You know, how much of that's private, how much of it falls under power or whatever, but how much of that might potentially be used for park space, like a lot of floodplains are across the U.S. And if there might be an agreement to be made, if any of it's public through the utilities or whatever, or if there's rules you can't do it that close to a dam. But I know, there's a lot of parks you see below dams, but I don't know what the rules are on that. So if that might be
We can look at that. I'm having a hard time envisioning if that's in our ETJ or let us look at the map.
yeah, because when you look at it from overhead, it looks like no man's land, but obviously it's somebody's. But
yeah, I just don't know where in relation to that the town limits are, and if it's in our ETJ or if it's falls. We'll take a look at that.
Just sort of bringing up one couple of items on that North Collins area where I live, from the town east to Barnes Bridge, that stretch. Since, on both sides of that, on town east and also on the Barnes Bridge side, we don't have any stove lights, right? So if it is from 3:30 to 6 o'clock, it's pretty bad traffic out there. Especially coming from Garland, that the vehicles all the way line up all the way to Bobtown Road. I mean, all the way to the gas station. It's not really in Sunnyvale, but all those residents probably struggling there. And then you also have, on the town eastern Collins, and which is stop and go. It's so much traffic. Probably, I don't know, any of you live in that area. It's 4 to 5 o'clock. It's pretty bad out there. That, again, I don't know whether anything that we can add or work on it, but just wanted to bring that up.
So, Town East and Collins is encompassed in phase 2 of the Collins expansion. Right now, we're waiting on a grant to begin preliminary design of that phase. It's past due. We've been expecting it for a while. We have about half of the money, but we're waiting on the other half. So that's phase 2 of Collins Road. We also got a grant from the county for about 1/8 of the construction cost of that project. But in order to take advantage of that, we'd have to do it in 2023, which means we're going to need to design this next fiscal year. So, I mean, if the CIP committee, who is meeting tomorrow night, ranks that highly, then that intersection would be redesigned all the way back here to the roundabout, which would include probably a traffic signal at that intersection, most likely. So, and then phase 3 of Collins Road and Town East, or excuse me, Collins Road between Town East and Barnes Bridge. That's a whole nother project. Right now it's ranked pretty low, mostly because feedback from the citizens along that route have been that they really don't want us to address that. So I think, we haven't even really talked about it a lot just because we need to get phase 2 done. So as we kind of move through that, it's going to depend upon the feedback from the community if they want us to evaluate that for expansion or not.
So based on previous communications today, you should talk to your next door neighbors and people across the street.
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay. Next is executive session. So can I get a motion to adjourn into executive session? Motion made by member Bradford, seconded by member Anthony. All those in favor? So we will adjourn into executive session at 7:01 p.m. We are going into executive session to discuss 551.087 economic development, deliberate and offer of financial or other incentives to a Project Panther. We will reconvene out of executive session at 7:25.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 21-26 as discussed.
Motion made by member Bradford,
Second the motion.
seconded by member Chase. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. And the next motion is to adjourn. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Motion made by member Cash, seconded by member Nyer. All those in favor? We adjourn at 7:26 p.m.